We have with us today a very special guest, Michael Marmenhaun, and he is the Managing Director of Fairafric Ghana Limited. Welcome, Michael, to our session.
Thank you.
So, to begin with, I'm very curious about your business. I would like to know more about it. You say that you are trying to decolonize chocolate. Could you tell us a little bit more about that and also your story?
Okay. Thank you very much. So my name is Michael, like you rightly said, and I would start from trying to first paint a certain picture that has been depicted over these years, way back into colonization, where the norm has always been to grow cocoa beans. You know, Ghana is known to produce good quality beans, and currently we are the second largest producer of cocoa after Ivory Coast. And it has always been an issue of transferring these beans outside of the country without any form of value creation. And that's where the Fairafric story comes in handy, because then our CEO in the past had spent enough time trying to understand why can't we just add value here in country of origin. And this led to the Fairafric story. So somewhere in 2016, we had actually thought about adding value to cocoa and starting to produce chocolate in Ghana. So in the very beginning, we partnered with some companies. First was the government and chocolate making company called CPC. And I would say that the first few bars were produced, but obviously there were a lot of things that we still needed to do. So that made us go to yet another partnership, with this time with a private company, and produce chocolate bars for the next 2 years.
Right.
But obviously the kind of quality bars that we were looking at and the market that we were serving was demanding more. And this more couldn't be found in the current factory that we were partnering with.
Right.
So we said, look, we can do this ourselves. Let's start to build our own factory.
Right.
So in 2018, 2019, all the paperwork, all the conversation around building the first organic chocolate factory in Ghana started. I think in 2020, we broke grounds for the first time in January to start construction. But then you know what happened in 2020? COVID also showed its face, and it was competition whether or not we would survive. But yes, I think we used just 6 months to build the factory. I was describing earlier that the height of our challenge in building the factory was when we had to fly in the equipment manufacturers, although the airports were all closed.
Wow.
And we went as far as meeting the President of the Republic one-on-one, like we are doing now, to tell him, hey, you need to really help us to build this factory. And he did. So the factory was built in record 6 months.
Wow.
All installation done. Commercial production started in 2020, October. And currently we are producing more than 5 million chocolate bars every year.
Wow.
Started, yeah, that's like really, really, really crazy. And most people say, well, what's different from your company? Because Ghana also already has 2 chocolate manufacturers. And I say, very true. The government and the private guy, they all have their chocolate factories. But the difference is that our chocolate is 100% organic. Nobody else produces 100% organic chocolates in Ghana. And then we are the only ones who are producing chocolate with real inclusions. When we say real inclusions, you would find hazelnuts, you find tiger nuts, you find almonds in the chocolate, unlike the others who are doing flavored chocolate. So this is what we've been doing for the past 2 years. Started with a small staff strength of 4, and currently we are 87.
Wow.
87 employees.
I mean, your journey is truly impressive, and from everything that you have dealt with, from the business side, the pandemic, it must have been quite challenging.
Yes, it
I
was.
am curious, however, to know that you focus a lot on sourcing cocoa beans locally and sustainably. So could you tell us a little bit more about your sustainability efforts? Because we know that you work a lot towards environmental sustainability as well as the social aspects of the sustainability. So can you shed some light on some of these efforts that you bring in?
Okay, true. And what we've done is to be able to focus on one aspect of our business that ties strongly with the SDGs. And we are talking about energy, for example. So our factory is the only factory, again, using 80% solar power. So what's doing is that we have installed solar panels on our roof, generating about 300 kVA of energy needed to run the factory. It means that we are not depending on the national grid.
Right.
We only need it to start the factory, but then it switches automatically to solar. And this is one green energy that we are so proud of, because obviously we all understand that we need to go green to be able to save the environment and protect the they are already depreciated situations that we find ourselves. So this is what we've been doing for 2 years now, heavily depending on solar energy to run everything within the factory.
Right. And we are here at COP27 today. So I'm also wondering, what would your message be as representative of small businesses? What are the key challenges and how can small businesses best participate in climate action? What are the challenges when it comes to adaptation efforts or mitigation efforts when it comes to climate issues?
Well, usually it's most of the people who are doing the big talks under these kind of umbrellas are only, sometimes it feels like they're only doing marketing, advertisements and phrases. But for us, we are truly walking the talk. For example, we are not using aluminium foil in any of our packaging. We are long done with aluminium. We are using bio-degradable, 100% bio-degradable packaging material, we call Nature Flex. It looks like plastic, but it's not plastic. It's made from pulp of a plant. And this is one of the efforts that we've intentionally put in the direction of production to eliminate plastics and aluminium. Also, we are within the factory, for example, we have a no plastic policy. So even there's nothing like plastic drinking cups or anything, we are using reusable water bottles for everybody. All employees have their own drinking water bottles and refills. You know, the challenges are enormous, I must say, because most of these interventions are capital intense. And this is where it's totally missing for SMEs, for example. And so it's always a challenge when you have good ideas, good initiatives, but then you cannot implement this because of financial positions.
Correct.
And that's where ITC comes in, and they've been really a helpful tool.
I was actually just going to come to that because you work very closely with Alliances for Action at ITC. So can you tell us a little bit more about that work?
Okay, so I think since their introduction to us, they've made life a bit easy for us. I'm finding myself here even at this platform because of them, for example. And they've provided enough platforms for us to have our team members trained. Like we have continuous training sessions with people who really understand these mitigation policies and these mitigation interventions, and we get our team members getting trained constantly. Like this is something that we would have spent so much money and would have needed to create a huge budget for things like this. And I'm saying that at the very beginning of our business, I don't think we would have been able to find such funds for this. And so we are very grateful for the support every time I say this. Yeah.
Well, that's wonderful. Thank you so much for all the information that you provided to us, and thank you for sharing with everyone. Maybe before we leave, what would be your one last message?
Okay.
As to conclude this conversation.
All right. So I would want to use this opportunity to tell the whole world that a certain project, a lighthouse project, has started in Ghana with Fairafric.
Right.
And we are trying to change everything, the narrative about value creation in Africa, climate changes that we need to look at in terms of our operational needs and assessment. And it's starting right in Ghana. And we need everybody to support us. Like we need people to understand what we've done and learn from it. Like we have so much success story to share. We are not going to keep it to ourselves alone. So watch out for us, find us and promote us. This is just the very beginning. Next 5 years from now, we will be telling a much bigger story.
Perfect. Thank you so much for making the time today.
Thank you too.
And have a nice rest of the day.
All right, you take care.